everyone, I'm Pam, and that's Elisa.
Hi.
And we are the founders of Restful Parenting. We are holistic infant and child sleep consultants, early childhood educators, and parent coaches. You can find us at restfulparenting.com, our Facebook community at All Things Sleep and Parenting, as well as the new podcast, All Things Sleep and Parenting, and you can find that anywhere that you listen to podcasts, and we chat everything. Elisa, Heidi, and I are chatting everything, sleep, parenting, development, and everything in between, so be sure to come over and find us there.
Sure.
Today, we are sitting down to chat about the schedule. Starting the schedule, the importance of a schedule, why we want to schedule, and then the kind of how-to. So typically around 5.5, 6 months is when we start to see the need for our little ones to adjust to that daily schedule. The schedule itself is the times that our little ones are going into bed at. And around 6 months of age, 5.5-ish, 6 months of age, that circadian rhythm has developed now. And that schedule, that day-to-day schedule, keeps them regulated, keeps that internal clock regulated. And once they get to that age where they need that schedule, it can make a huge difference in how they're sleeping. So today we're talking about the schedule, and that is, the same 30 minutes or so from day to day. So if your little one is napping between 8 and 8:30, or 11:30 and 12, 3 and 3:30. So there is some flexibility within that schedule, but we want to keep it within those same 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Starting a schedule is like the heavens open up. I find I loved, I've got 4 of my own, and I loved when they got onto the schedule, because now I can schedule things. Their sleep becomes a lot more predictable and consistent.
When you're making plans the day before or 2 days before, every day, okay, I have this window of opportunity between naps or whatever to get them out and about, right? Yeah. And then that third nap can sometimes be on the go. So even if you schedule something between second nap and bedtime, then third nap on the go is not the biggest deal, but it just gives you so much more opportunity to know from day to day. And I find that helps so much with your mental health as a parent, because you are able to feel like you have a little bit of a life. Before the schedule, we do wake windows. So that's the amount of time that your little one is awake for in between sleep periods. And that is the timing that we use before that 5.5 to 6 month age, just so that there's no confusion and everyone knows what an actual schedule is. The schedule is when they get onto those predictable times.
We did mention keeping that internal clock regulated and to know when it's time, because sometimes that can be a little tough, right? You don't know if they should be on the schedule or if the schedule is really right for them. Some babies will kind of transition onto somewhat of their own schedule on their own. However, a lot of babies do need a little bit of extra help and guidance. And although the wake windows work really well before 6 months of age, we do tend to see by that 6 months that schedule makes a huge difference in how they're sleeping, when they're sleeping, how long it's taking them to fall asleep.
Yeah, it can really create a lot of that predictability surrounding their naps as well, so that every day they're going to start napping for an hour and 15 minutes in the morning and an hour and a half. With little ones that are not on a set schedule yet, we tend to see that their naps still aren't quite that predictable from day to day, and then getting on to that predictable set schedule from day to day creates that predictability with their naps and allows them to really get into that groove.
So some of the signs that your little one might be ready for a scheduled day include short naps. Mm-hmm. If you're still struggling with short naps, 5.5, 6 months, and short naps are kind of 45 minutes-ish.
30 minutes even.
Yeah.
Of course, there are other things that you need to be doing for short naps, but that is one of the pieces of the puzzle that can contribute and perpetuate the short naps.
Yes. If you're finding that your 5-month-old still kind of needs 4 or 5 naps a day because of those short naps, that can then also be a sign that they are ready for that scheduled day. If you are finding that your day towards the end of the day is just getting really wonky with that last nap and bedtime, and now bedtime is being really pushed, and you started your day at 6:30, but they're not going to bed until 8, 9 o'clock, that kind of stuff. That can be a sign that they are ready for
that
the
3 nap a day schedule.
Nap a day.
Yeah. And one thing about getting them onto it is it starts with the morning wake time, right? So every day you can't have a predictable schedule, or it makes it nearly impossible to get that predictability. If they're waking up one day at 6:30, the next day at 7:30, next day at 8, the day after that at 6, the day after that at 6:30. So if they're waking up through, all different times throughout the day, it becomes really hard to know where to start, right? So you need to start with that morning wake up of the day. So what you do there is you count their average wake time. If their average wake time is 6:30 in the morning, then you'll want to make their wake time on the schedule 6:30 or 7. So if they're not awake by 7 o'clock, you'd go in there and gently get them up for the day. I know this sucks the most because if your little one is sleeping in the morning, you want to take full advantage of that. And it's not to say that maybe as your little one goes on throughout their time on a schedule, they might end up just sleeping a little bit later, and you can shift their whole day according to what time they're waking. But at the beginning, for the sake of getting something organized and set up, you really want to make sure that you're not letting them go past that half hour every day. So 6:37 in the morning.
Yeah. So same 30 minutes, whichever time your little one's waking up, that same 30 minutes every day, they're waking within that. So it does mean having to wake them, which can be tough, but we're looking at the, greater good of being able to adjust to that schedule.
Is that then your morning nap will fall into place there, right? Because you've already done the work on that predictable wake time. So then it's natural that the next nap kind of falls into that rhythm. So you would go with that next nap, and then you'd keep them up until their second scheduled nap. Here's where it gets a little tricky, and here's where it gets to the point where we're kind of going against the grain here, and we're going against what we think we should be doing, because when you're establishing a set schedule, that is the exception to that overtired rule. You've probably heard us say many times, get your baby to bed on time at the right times for them. Otherwise, they're going to bed overtired, which can then mean shorter naps, which can then mean more wakings at night. But when you're going and you're getting onto that schedule and you're getting your baby's body clock used to that schedule, you might have to keep them up for longer than they can tolerate to get them onto that predictable schedule. So let's say your first nap fell at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and your little one is a short napper. They only fell, they woke up at 9:30 or 9:45. Then you still want to keep them up to that next scheduled nap time so that you are establishing that schedule. Because again, if you don't keep them up until that time and you're putting them down earlier because they didn't have a good nap, you're not really getting onto a schedule, right? It's going to be different from day to day.
Yeah. And then that cycle continues, right? Where they had a short nap, so we move this nap forward. Well, then we move this one nap forward, and now we have this really big gap before bedtime. So it really is important once they're on that schedule to not compensate and to really kind of have, I kind of refer to it as like our schedule bubbles, right? Like our nap bubbles. So 9 a.m., that nap bubble is say 8:30, 9 a.m. until about 10:15, 10:30. So if they're still sleeping at that time, we want to wake them up so that we're protecting that second nap, right? So that second nap bubble, and then the third nap bubble. The more consistent we can be with those pockets, with those bubbles, the easier it's going to be on that circadian rhythm, right? Because it's not going back and forth and trying to figure it out. You're keeping that schedule nice and consistent for them. You're keeping their naps within those bubbles, which then allows that internal clock to regulate, this is my time to sleep. I sleep well. Okay, this is my time to be awake.
And then you're going to find that it's easier to put your little one down at those times because their body is predicting that means sleep. It also helps for later on in life because when they start in childcare, it's quite regimented, where every day they're on a set schedule where they go to sleep at these times. And then when you get them home at the end of the day, you want to have a nice predictable bedtime for them as well, right? So that it helps with overall sleep. So it helps set them up for that success later on when they do start in childcare and things are a little bit more regimented, but also it helps you with your predictability and knowing what to plan from day to day and actually being able to get out of the house. That is one of the things that I hear back from most of the families that I work with is, I need to get onto that schedule now so that I know what time my little one's going to nap at from day to day and I can plan my day. Because most of us adults are very scheduled, right? And then, of course, for your baby, getting them onto that set schedule might mean more predictable naps because they're having that predictability. And it might mean that it's easier to get them down at certain times.
So some of the challenges when adjusting to a schedule, especially if your little one's been struggling with sleep, because sometimes they may not fully be ready, but they're just kind of gearing up. So you may see some sleep fall apart here or there, or they may go from like a really great long napper to kind of these short ones here and there. So they may have an off day here or a couple of off days there type thing. But if you're starting to see that become kind of consistent, then we know that they are ready for that sleep schedule.
Right.
Some of the challenges, though, are that you need to be really consistent.
Yeah.
Like
at first, anyways.
Yeah, to really help the more consistent you can be to get their body on track, the faster they're going to adjust. You also want to give it a good 7 to 10 days to really allow that internal clock to adjust, get their system ready and used to that schedule.
Resist the urge to try new timings every couple of days because that is just going against the rhythm for them and it's not going to help their body adjust. So resist that urge to try it because it seems like it's not working, but they just need that good amount of time for their body to really get used to it.
Yeah, and that biggest challenge is that they are going to be tired, and that is an expectation, right? It's kind of that small little sacrifice for that long term, right? So we do expect that they're going to be tired. You're going to work really hard on not letting them fall asleep in between naps. So if they get really sleepy while they're feeding, making sure you're in a bright, airy room that they're not kind of getting into that drowsy. Maybe you're not going in the car or the stroller if you know that's going to be their number one thing to help them to sleep. But the more consistent you can be with that schedule, not allowing the little cat naps in between, your little one will adjust, and then you will be able to have that nice, predictable schedule.
Yes. Okay, well, thanks, everyone. That is all that we wanted to say for today. So hopefully you got some good tips. As always, if you have questions, post them in the comments, and we will be on to answer them. Thanks so much. Bye.